Hello and welcome to another episode of the Humanizing Data podcast run by Morpheus Meets. So I'm your host Sean Kennedy, and today we're thrilled to have Matthew Portillo, the conversation design lead from Amelia. So first and foremost, Matthew, thank you very much for joining us, sir. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Excited to be here.
No, not a problem. I'm really looking forward to getting into this one. We've, of course, had a couple of good meetings already. And from speaking with you off air, I think you have a really interesting story. So we'll try and dive straight into that. So I think you were quite honest with me, even in your early years and growing through college. Conversational AI wasn't at the sort of center of your mind in terms of a career path, but here you are now. So just really keen to get the sort of backstory of where you come from, what you were doing, and how you came into the industry.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was on the minds of very few people back when I was in university. Kind of sort of I finished that in 2012. And yeah, it was very, very niche back then. My course of study at university was rhetoric and writing, so sort of a broad strokes liberal arts degree. I didn't really know what I wanted to be when I grew up, and so a writing degree that focused on things like communication skills, focus on persuasion. That seemed to me to be universally applicable, and so I went off and did internships in everything from content marketing to public relations to advertising, copywriting. I had a great time. Worked adjacent to design and innovation as well, and had a great time doing internships like that in Austin, Texas. And then this opportunity came out of nowhere. I got to go work for a small nonprofit organization in Central America, and doing kind of just marketing, fundraising kind of stuff for them. That was going to be a 6-month thing. It ended up turning into a 2.5 years thing. Oops. So I came back. to the States. Was looking kind of for a different kind of challenge, and sort of kind of refined my path. So I lost my mind, decided to move to New York City. I'm the only person to move to New York City to quit being a writer, actually. Of course, the first job that I found after I got here was a job as a content writer in public relations. So I sort of had this odd background, right? As if you're keeping track, I've worked in Central America. I've become pretty fluent in Spanish. I have a strong writing background. I have worked adjacent to design and innovation, strong communication skill set. And so, in 2017, I got this email from a recruiter at this company. She said, "Hey, we're working on a product. It's conversational AI. It's called Amelia. We're working for people to kind of help, for lack of a better term, sort of humanize this, make it a little bit more user friendly. We're looking for people with a background like yours, and writing, communication. And by the way, we have some clients in Latin America. It'd be great if we could get someone who speaks Spanish, which it seems like you do." And I was just like, oh my goodness, it was the first time I'd ever been reached out to by a recruiter. And yeah, kind of the role then was ill-defined. They weren't entirely sure what this role would become, what a conversation designer was supposed to do. There was sort of being a gopher for training data. It was advising on copy editing, some of this dialogue that engineers were writing, and it evolved over time, and it began to kind of integrate more sort of design thinking and a little bit more kind of business architecture skills, and obviously the communication and the presentation component ended up being very important as I became more client facing myself. So yeah, a cool journey into this, very unexpected. When I first moved to New York and I was just looking for a job, my friend, an older friend, said, "Well, you need to think about where you want to be in 10 years, and then work back, work forwards. Where does that mean you need to be in 5 years, and where does that mean you need to be next year, and let that guide your journey." And I was just like, man, I don't know. I'm sorry, it's not what you want to hear, but I just don't know. But I know that I'll know it when I see it. He didn't like that answer, but I think that I ended up being right, and I find that very satisfying.
Yeah, me too. Feel free to edit that bit and send it to him.
Yeah, yeah, maybe I will.
See what he says. But no, really interesting journey, and given recruiters a good name there as well. So glad to hear it. But
Hmm.
yeah, I guess the stars kind of aligned for you. You know, to hit all them boxes is hard, but it certainly did.
And I was lucky, right? It was easier to find your way into the space then than it is now. So yeah, I mean that obviously that's not lost on me, and I'm, standing on the shoulders of some giants, and try and pay it forward whenever I can.
Yeah, absolutely, and of course you've touched on it there, but the space has become hugely popular now. You know, it already was building and building, but with the release of ChatGPT, things have kind of exploded. And with the popularity, we expect a lot more increased involvement. People now that, like you, probably were doing maybe something similar and now want to all of a sudden think, oh, you know, I could use this in conversational AI. Or people that never had it, considered it as a career, now looking to, I really want to work in that space. What do I need to do? So yeah, their path is probably going to be very different maybe to yours, and unfortunately for them, maybe a lot more competition. So what advice would you give to someone now, you know, being a sort of, if you were looking to hire for Amelia, or wherever it may be within this space, what advice would you give to, say, someone looking to get into space? What are the things they could do to set them apart? What would be the sort of path they should follow if they're really serious and
Yeah,
want to put themselves in the best position?
yeah. So first, I'll speak broadly and say, whether individual companies realize it or not, this space, this discipline is going to need this practice broadly. Conversational AI absolutely needs conversation designers. And there is for people who have a passion for this, I would say, step up. We're glad to see you here. We need good conversation designers. We will continue to need good conversation designers, and whether or not individual organizations are realizing that already or not quite yet, they will. And so persevere. Um, that said, what do I look for when I'm looking for conversation designers, and what am I seeing? Kind of my counterparts in other companies. What are we looking for? A few things, and this can also be a combination of things, right? Um, First of all, I would say make sure you're in that you have a passion for conversation design. I think the best way to do this is to take a course in conversation design. I can think of a couple. We'll probably have a chance to talk more about them later on. Um, but there are great training courses and curriculums out there. Most of them are self-paced, self-guided, with an instructor leading sessions and create. And as you're doing that, work on conversation design experiences. Create a portfolio. And the important thing here is not that your project is perfect, is bulletproof, is ready to get handed off to engineers and put into production for thousands and thousands of users. As as a as a conversation design lead, that's not necessarily what I'm looking for. It doesn't have to be perfect. And from someone who's an entry level, or someone who's just entering the space, that's not even what I'm expecting. What I'm expecting is to see, what I'm hoping for, what I'm looking for is to see some creativity. I'm hoping to see some good, solid thinking. So not just creativity, pie in the sky stuff. Like, what's the problem you're trying to solve? How did you discover that problem? How are you thinking through that problem? How are you looking at and analyzing and learning more about the humans who are coming up against this problem or challenge? That's and then how do you go through thinking about a solution? Like when I look at a portfolio project, then like that's what I'm really interested in seeing. What is this candidate's critical thinking ability? How advanced are they? How good are they at communicating in writing and eventually in face to face. So invest in yourself. Make sure that this is what you want to do by investing in a training program, and then learn the skills, learn the basic skills, how we kind of think, principles, strategies for design. Read books, and create a portfolio. Definitely create a portfolio. And there are simple kind of freemium types of platforms that you can use to do that, which you'll learn more about them in your training, in your training course that you end up taking.
Yeah, perfect. And of course, the industry since you started back in 2017 has evolved quite a bit, I would say, and is on that sort of trajectory as well. But since you started, what has been the main sort of differences from then to now?
Well, certainly, like I said, the number of conversation designers who are in the space, it's a little bit more. The industry has sort of figured out, or is figuring out, that conversation design is an essential skill in any conversational AI practice. Not a nice to have; it's essential. And so, when I started here 6 years ago, that wasn't as much the case. Certainly, I guess more and more organizations are kind of coming into the fold. Like, there's a lot of conversational AI out there now. A lot of it is being built so much more, and yet it's almost like we haven't scratched the surface. Like, there's still so much more to create, and so many more processes to automate, so many more experiences to roll out that will be helpful and useful to real humans. Here's a good one. It used to be where organizations would kind of take a tech-first approach, an engineering-first approach to building out conversational AI, and then it can kind of like invite conversation designers or content people in after the fact to kind of polish it. But what I think they kind of found was that when you start polishing, you start realizing, like, oh, we've got to go deeper here. Ooh, we've got to go deeper. We need to we sort of need to revisit some of the structure. Why do you guys build it like this? Like, what if we rearrange something? And then, like, all of a sudden you're kind of, you're starting to, like, break down some of the initial work that was done. And so, like, what is happening here is people are starting to realize that, like, okay, why engineer something, then have designers look at it, figure out that we have to throw out what we engineered, all so that we can just engineer it again. Like, that's not efficient. Why don't we start with a design first approach, so that we only have to spend developer hours once. And if the designers do a good job, it kind of minimizes the amount of work that developers are going to have to do anyway. I say minimize. It makes it so that they aren't going to have to build and rebuild multiple times. I would say that's the industry is maturing in that way, which is great to see.
Yeah, perfect. And you've obviously been with Amelia from the sort of get-go in this space, and they must be doing something right. And anyone in the conversational AI space has more than likely heard of them and the good work they do, not just the fabulous office, which you've made me very jealous about, but from your sort of personal perspective, not just working for Amelia, but what has kept you working in this industry, and now what excites you about the future within the space?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the answer is a little bit intertwined with Amelia. Amelia is has the leading technology. Obviously there are more competitors in the space now, and that's significant. But yeah, as a platform, Amelia is really is multi-channel. There's so many opportunities, so many fun things you can design when your platform is multi-channel, multimodal. There's all the latest and greatest NLU tools, and great people to work with on implementing that. Also, Amelia can, in addition to being voice, can be chat. It can also dip into all sorts of repositories of data. And when you're working in enterprise space, that's where you go from being kind of just a little informational bot to being really, really useful and a time-saving tool for employees and customers alike. As far as what's keeping me in this space, I love that we're on the forefront of innovation. This is exactly where I wanted to be when I came up here to New York City 7 years ago. With a dream to work with people who were imagining the future and making it real. I wanted to work at the intersection of design and technology and communications and business. And the cool thing about this is that I have the opportunity to do that every day. This is what I didn't know that this existed when I finished university. That I had a dream to find it, and so being here it's like that dream job that I didn't know what it was I wanted all those years ago. And also the sky is the limit, like we talked about. This technology, these types of experiences are going to grow and evolve. And to be honest with you, I'm not sure. Like, we can think about this not just as conversational AI, but as human-computer interaction. You mentioned large language models, generative AI. That's this new thing that I don't want to say it came out of left field, but it's really kind of come since November, I think. It's really come into the forefront of the conversation, and everybody is talking about kind of, what are we going to do with this? Is this conversational AI? Is this something a little bit different? Like, we're here for it. It's most likely going to be a blend. And sitting here from my space, in 5 years, will I still be a conversational AI designer? I think so, but like maybe human-computer interaction is going to evolve a little bit more towards something a little bit novel, and that's really cool. I'm here for the long haul. I like creating experiences that make humans' lives easier, more efficient, save time, save effort, and I love working in the business space and helping organizations be more efficient too. We talk a lot about helping humans, and that's we can talk more about that later if you want, but AI I think is not going to be this thing that comes in and wipes out an entire workforce. It's going to evolve our workforce, and I think that's only going to be a positive thing, even though it might inflict a little bit of short-term pain, growing pain.
Yeah, absolutely agree. From speaking with people day in, day out in the space in all different areas where AI is either used, on wholesale to make wholesale changes, or if it's just to leverage and evolve and adapt, it really is there to assist and improve, as opposed to like you said. And a post you did a couple of years ago caught my attention actually. It was about some high level, always applicable principles that guide you as when you design conversations. That was, of course, I think about 2 years ago. But what would your answer be on this today? And I know we spoke a little bit about how you've evolved since then, but I wondered if any of your principles have evolved.
Yeah,
also.
Absolutely. Okay, so I guess the trajectory of the principles. So I worked with a manager about 3-4 years ago, and she was really fun, and also she it was great working with her because she brought a lot of rigor to our practice at the time and what we did and how we thought. She came from the world of human-centered design thinking in design practice at McKinsey, and she I think as a designer, I was pretty green and sort of had the idea that let's design this and kind of whatever I think is going to be the best design must be the best design, and I would make design decisions left and right, and she kind of she sort of challenge that and say, like, Matt, like, what are our principles here? Like, what are we trying to do? And she started to put together a set of design principles that really kind of brought in, a lot of the thinking that she had done at McKinsey, with her colleagues, and was really valuable. And I kind of and it sort of forced me to kind of like level up my thinking, like how do we think about this? What should guide us? Um, we she had a stab at those principles, and after she left the company, it was almost 3 years ago. I kept working on them because I thanks to her, I saw the value in this, but I also knew that like this needed to be I shouldn't say dumbed down. It needed to be simplified to be very digestible, and to um, and to be not esoteric, like kind of what can kind of be design speak, in the world of these big companies like IDEO or Frog or McKinsey, these evolved design practices, but they can kind of get a little bit echo chambery. And so I took them, and I really worked a long time, late nights, just sitting on a whiteboard with tons of post-it notes, thinking about how do I distill this down. And I came up with 7 principles. So this is what I came up with probably about a year and a half ago, and this has been working pretty well for me. Um, um, the conversation design principles here are these 7. Thinking about things being accessible, letting users interact in a way that makes sense for them, making every part about an interaction easy, so that users don't have to spend a lot of time and effort thinking or doing physically with their fingers or their voice, more than they have to. Um, do the work for the user, dip into the data, find the output, don't ask so many questions. And speaking of that, make it efficient, streamline the process. Um, things should things should be useful and helpful. We talked about elevating from kind of question and answer bots up to conversational AI that almost functions like an assistant. It can do things for you. It actually it doesn't create repetitive work. Um, Conversational. This is really important. This is the sort of a new-ish design principle, in the design space, because we are now starting to use conversational interfaces. And what I think about that is that not that it has to be like a human chatty conversation, but more that it's multi-turn. Like, users have to have some equity in the conversation, and it's a true back and forth. It's not a lecture. Um, Obviously, uh, these experiences have to be credible, trustworthy, and certainly we want them to be intelligent and adaptive to the many ways that humans are gonna speak. We're pretty we are we're a little bit chaotic, and to the extent that conversational AI can keep up with us, those are the experiences that are really going to shine. So I will stop that screen share. But yeah, that's what we use. That's been working out well for me for yeah, probably a couple of years now. And I'm thinking about adding helpful to that, but I think it kind of goes with useful. I don't know. Jury's still out. I love the number 7. So maybe I'm holding out here. But yeah, if anybody has hot opinions on that, by all means, shoot me a message on LinkedIn to state your case.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll of course put all your details in there, and if anyone can't see the picture, I'll make sure to share it as well alongside that, so people can interact. And yeah, who knows, you may end up with a few more numbers there, but going to take something good to make you change your mind past that 7 if it's so lucky. We've talked, of course, a lot about the benefits, but we'd be blind to not maybe talk about some of the
Sure.
challenges. And of course, being so client
Hmm.
facing, customer facing, you're bound to encounter these all the
Yeah.
time. So really interested to kind of get your thoughts. What are the biggest modern day challenges you face when it comes to conversational AI and interaction?
There are a lot of challenges. It kind of the challenges that you expect in any business. Kind of there's a lot of work to do, timelines. There are clients who can be demanding. Obviously, working out technical bugs and design challenges. Like, those are challenges that I think kind of apply apply to most of the people who are going to be listening to this podcast. But I think one of the things that, as I think more about it, a challenge that's a little bit more specific to our industry here is the challenge of separating signal from noise. There's a lot of hype in, around AI, and there has been for decades, right? The Terminator movies, the movie Her, all of these ideas from in science fiction about, computers as human, computers becoming sentient, and some people are really resistant to that. Other people are like, ooh, whoa, that's really cool. But I think that a lot of that can kind of obscure or distract from the focus of, like, let's use AI, or really any technology, in the service of humans. And the way we kind of think about that, here in the conversation design space is we keep a human-centered perspective. The point isn't that it be human-like so much as it be like human-centered, and that's important, because if it's not, people aren't going to use it, right? Nobody, like, it's difficult to force people to use AI. I mean, there's some cases where that kind of happens when you replace one system with another, but generally, like, people have a little bit of agency here, and you don't want to engineer something, build something, design something that's not going to get used, because then where's the value in that? And we kind of think about, like, this is how we counsel clients a lot. They might have a big idea, or here, this is it, like human-like AI, avatars, large language models, pass the Turing test. There's always this shiny new thing. There's always this new tech, right? That some client executive reading a magazine is convinced that, like, this is going to transform our business. Let's do this. And so, a lot of times we kind of have to sort of push and prod on some of that pie in the sky thinking, and encourage, and not to, like, shoot down ideas, but to help ideas become better. We're not going to do fancy, sexy tech for the sake of fancy, sexy tech. But we do want to look for opportunities for tech to make a difference, not only in humans who are using it, but although that's obviously very important, but also for the businesses. Like, we are designing in building these experiences so that businesses can either grow revenue or reduce costs. Right now, in the wake of the Great Resignation, there are call centers at companies all over the place that they cannot hire enough humans, and the humans that are there are getting swamped. And so it's like, it benefits humans to have some AI assisting them, and both the employees and the business, and the employees, call center people, and the people who now aren't going to have to stay on hold for 2 hours to speak with somebody about rescheduling a flight or whatever. And it also benefits the business and their bottom line. They're going to see higher customer satisfaction. They're going to see improvements in their balance sheets, and it's not necessarily because they came forward with the best, fanciest, coolest, most human-like experience. It's going to be because they came in and implemented something, introduced something that was, wait for it, accessible, easy, efficient, and scalable, useful. The intelligent, these principles that we talk about, that's what really is going to move the needle for companies. And so, it's on people like me, people like the kind of other more consultant types who work here at Amelia, to to help make that point and bring those people along and kind of help them see the bigger picture, help them make their own ideas better. And that's again, that's one of the things I really really love about doing what I do here.
Yeah, and it's no surprise due to the good work that you've mentioned. You were the recipient of an interesting named award. Sorry, so the Rockstar Award,
Yeah.
which people may get the wrong impression. It certainly has a good name, but I'd love to hear a bit more, and I'm sure people. What is the Amelia Rockstar Award? What led to you sort of receiving that,
Yeah.
and if we could go from there, I guess who would you give the Rockstar Award to now, if it could be anyone within the AI space?
Oh boy, yeah. I'll have to think about that one for a second. There are a lot of good candidates out there. Um, the the Rockstar Award, yeah, it's kind of a it's sort of a here at Amelia, it's been um, sort of an employee of the quarter, I would say, on average. These aren't evenly spaced out necessarily, but think of it kind of as an employee of the quarter, somebody who's recognized for making a difference, um, for working well with our clients, for making a difference in our organization, for um, you get the picture. Yeah, and so I was chosen for this award along with my colleague Paulina in July of last year, and so at a kind of a company happy hour outdoors, beautiful NYC summer. Yeah, we got presented this award, and for my part, my manager chose me for the award, calling out my mentoring that I've been doing with our team of conversation designers, for my ability to do a lot of what we were talking about a minute ago, challenging clients and sort of pushing them to kind of come along and partner with us, and think bigger, think better, and design really cool solutions to pressing problems. Um, um, Really starting to pioneer a principles-led approach, and all those things were called out. It was really that was a really special thing for me. Um, my boss even came back. Right, he left a client meeting early and flew back on an earlier flight and showed up to that ceremony, suitcase in hand. I wasn't even expecting it. It was a really really special night. Um, so that's the Rockstar Award here at Amelia. It's something that I think for those of us who've been around a while, it's something that means a lot, and it's just a really just nice thing to be able to celebrate with our little community here of Amelians, and it's something that makes our culture has made our culture what it is. Um, as far as who I would give the award to, okay. Okay, so here's the thing about the Rockstar Award. Managers can't get it. This is for rank and file people. And side note, while I mentor a number of people here in our organization, I don't formally manage them. So that's how I was able to get it. And so I feel like there are some high level, like when you think about the like big time rock stars, difference makers in this industry, like Rebecca Evanhoe comes to mind. Sort of like an OG in this space, maybe Kathy Pearl as well. But they're like managers, like Rebecca. She's literally a professor of this stuff at Pratt Institute. I'm trying to think of people who are maybe like a little bit like who are a little bit closer to the ground level. I've got one. Hillary Black. Hillary Black runs she teaches a conversation design course. I think it's like an 8-week, more or less self-paced course, and it's one of the ones I was talking about earlier. It's in conversation design, and it's through UX Content Collective. She does a really great job with this, putting out content, helping aspiring designers to kind of understand some of these higher level design principles, but also like the strategies for how you make it happen. Um, she she has all of her students create an experience that they put into portfolios, and they publish portfolios online. And 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 Hillary is spawning a new generation of conversation designers who are trained, they're ready to work, they're enthusiastic about it, and they're well prepared for their interviews because they have a portfolio and they can talk through how they thought about business challenges, design challenges, human challenges. And within the last year, we actually hired someone out of Hillary's conversation design program. She's been a fantastic asset to the organization, and it's just kind of helped me understand, like, wow, this is really cool that that we have kind of this, I don't want to call it a factory, but this training ground for all these new people who we're gonna need. Like, Hillary's making that possible. She's not the only one. I think, special shout out to Hans van Dam at the Conversation Design Institute. It's a similar kind of program. I think it's a little bit more self-paced. I don't know if they have people, their students make portfolios, but yeah. So I would say Hillary Black with a big time honorable mention to Hans van Dam, because they are just literally supplying us, the industry at large, with the conversation designers that we're going to need, who are able-bodied and ready to go. And I could sing their praises all day long.
No, brilliant, and sounds like a fantastic setup on both sides. And the main thing I get from that is, like you said, when you were sort of starting out, it was a bit unclear, and having someone like a Hillary is a fantastic place, and anyone that's looking to get into the industry kind of tick all them boxes that you, as maybe a hiring manager or a business like Amelia, would look for. To have that sort of person that can get you ready for that is a fantastic asset.
Yeah, and Hillary, if you are listening, where were you when I needed you in 2017? Come on.
Exactly. There you go. We need a few more of them, a few more Hillarys around the world, and be a lot better place.
Yeah.
But alongside being a conversational AI design guru, one thing we also talked about off air is you're a keen marathon runner, and I don't think many people say that. It's maybe a bit of a select few in the world, but nevertheless, really interested about how this impacted your life, and even the parallels you could draw to running a marathon to maybe working within conversational AI would be really interesting.
Yeah, well, clearly, you opened Pandora's box, asking marathon runners about marathons. So yeah, let's dive right into that rabbit hole, what I call my evening job. And you've also, I think you've done some homework here. Full well that I've spoken a bit about. I have quite a perspective on some of those similarities. As far as just kind of what your first question was, just kind of about how it came about, or how would the impact, or
no, just sort of the impacts. If I like you said, I do a bit of homework, and I think you had originally sort of started doing running, and then you stopped for a bit and went back to it. So just interested to get how that coming back into your life. What's the impact been? A bit more about that.
Yeah. So I did cross country running in middle school and high school, and had fun with it. And in college, it sort of fizzled out as I got busy with other things, and then went and lived elsewhere, and came back and moved to New York, and it was just sort of this thing that I kind of would do a little bit. But but here in New York, I got we have the largest marathon in the world here every November, and I saw this and was interested in maybe kind of trying it out myself. It's a big accomplishment, and in the running world, and I wanted that for myself. And so I asked a friend of mine, Emily, who is a chronic marathoner herself, and asked her how to qualify, and she told me about how I could do that. And as I And as I did that, and she not only did she do that, she invited me to join the running team, the running club that she was a part of at the time, and that ended up being a really really great thing for me. I think that for all of us who work in conversational AI, who work in design, who work in anything, it's like you kind of need a way to challenge yourself in ways that you don't challenge yourself at work, right? Like, I don't, most days, I don't, I'm not going to get my heart rate up at work. It's not really so much of a physical effort. Um, and one of the things that I kind of like about running is that it sort of allows me to sort of focus on something different, turn a different part of my brain on, and turn some of the brain that I use, from during the workday off a little bit. It helps me sort of refocus, and that's a really helpful thing to me. It's no less a challenge, but it's in a very different way, and that I think has had a tremendously positive impact on my life. It's also provided a social community outside of work, and I think that's especially important in this day and age as well. And so as far as parallels, so okay, so right, so I'm running my first marathon, right, and this is November 2021, and at you run a marathon in whatever it takes. For me, it's 3 hours and some change that year. And so that's a lot of time to sort of sit and think. And for the first part of the marathon, especially, you're kind of turning your brain off. You're gonna think about stuff. And I was sort of thinking about how the marathon is very much like it's a long effort over time. And if you try to, and this is what my coach told me. He was like, listen, you are going to, like, all along that course from miles 3, 4, 5 through mile 10, all these miles that you're running, and a marathon is 26 miles, 42 kilometers for those who don't know. If for all these miles that you're running at the beginning of the race, you're gonna feel great, and people are gonna be cheering for you on the sides, and it's gonna be loud. They're gonna be, yeah, go faster, and you're gonna be tempted, like, that's going to amp you up. It's going to give you all this energy. It's going to inspire you. But remember, you're not running a race that's 6 miles. You're not running a race that's 10 miles. So don't go putting on your best show for the spectators who are along the sides of the first half of this course. That's not where the race is run. And remember, how good you feel at the beginning, that is not how you're going to feel in the second half of the race. So resist the urge to go faster because you feel good, like you can go faster. It's all about self-discipline at the beginning. And and he said, people are going to pass you in the beginning. That's okay. Let them come right back to you in the last 6 miles of the race. They will. And so, it's kind of, for me, it's a little bit easy to sort of see how in the conversation design space, especially as we're working with client partners who they've got people on, they're starting out their conversational AI journey, and it's going to be a long one. And they are working with, higher up executives. They're, people who may or may not know a lot about AI technology, and how it works. They might be a little bit kind of dazzled by it, and they have an idea for kind of how this is gonna go. And they also they want to see quick progress. Give us some quick wins, demonstrate progress, blah 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 blah. And so they're kind of like these spectators who are in the first part of it, who are along the course in the first 10 miles of a 26-mile race, telling you that yeah, go faster, you got this, all right, let's. And so if you put on a show for them, you're going to risk some burnout. You risk pursuing some short-term outputs as opposed to a long-term outcome. if you're focused on just how fast you can finish the first sprints of a project, you might not invest enough kind of time and energy and good effort and patience into doing that fundamental work that you need to do. Understanding users, understanding the business case, understanding the environments and the context and all that. And when you get to the later stages of your conversational AI journey, you're going to start you're going to start slowing down. That's what you risk. Having to go back and do and redo work, and just like that marathoner, he goes out too fast and then it's like at the end, and has to walk, has to stop for a minute, catch a breath, drink some water, and then slowly get going again. That's the risk that conversational AI practices run when they kind of have a false start, and don't kind of cover all their bases early on in their project. So yeah, lots of parallels there, and it's kind of cool to do basically a recreational hobby in the evening and do something what seems to be completely different during the day, and then find that, like, oh wow, these have quite a bit of crossover.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the interesting thing I find from speaking to anyone within AI, no matter what hobby they have or outside interest, very rarely is it completely alien. There's always parts that there's a lot more similarities and differences, which is interesting. And I'm doing a 10K here for Morpheus and for charity on the 15th of April. So I'll have you going around in my head when people are cheering on. Don't burn myself out, because I don't want to be the one crawling at the end to get over. But yeah, 26 miles is a little bit more than that. I'm not quite up to that standard yet,
Okay,
so I'll leave that to you.
We all start somewhere, and yeah, we'll talk more about that 10K if you want.
I'm sure you'll have me doing a marathon at some point, probably. Our director here as well is quite persuasive about doing it, and with him in one ear and you in the other, I'm sure I'll end up at some point.
That's our toxic trait as marathoners, is trying to get everybody else to become marathoners.
It's always the way. But in terms of next steps for you now, what's next steps for Matthew and say you and your team at Amelia?
Yeah, so we're working with more clients. Our book of business is growing at all the time. Our team is also growing a little bit. So yeah, we're looking for ways to grow our practice, to grow our thinking, to get better as designers, to learn more at all times. Also, to working to see kind of what can we bake into the product. We are or the platform as a product company. We won't be. Our model isn't to have very high touch, long term engagement on every single one of our client accounts for forever and for always. We want to see the platform itself be advanced enough to help conversation designers to do their work better, smarter, faster, and not just that, but obviously that goes for our NLU colleagues and for engineers and business users and all the rest. So we're always kind of looking at sort of improving ourselves on a practice level and on a platform level. That's really exciting. As you might have noticed lately, we received a pretty significant round of investment and a great new equity partner. We've been busy working with them to level up and to operationalize, and we're gonna continue to do that. So yeah, look forward to seeing our product and our brand and our presence and our practice grow and improve over time. And yeah, I'll be here and just leading our group of conversation design warriors, mentoring the practitioners who come in and join us. And I'm in my sweet spot.
Yeah, absolutely. You can tell you've got a glow off your face talking about it, and yeah, that they're in very capable hands, and alongside the work of, like you said, people like Hillary, and the positives from what's coming in the space, that the future looks very bright, not just for yourself and Amelia, but for conversational AI in general. So it's been an absolute pleasure having you on, and really appreciated your thoughts and insight. Just before we finish, is there anything else you wanted to add, or?
Yeah, I think I would just reiterate that, anybody who's listening to this and who wants to work in conversational AI, um, you know when my coach was giving me the talk about don't start too fast, and be careful, blot out distractions, blah blah blah. He kind of like, he wasn't telling me any of this stuff uh, to discourage me. He was actually giving me the advice that I needed to succeed. And I think, like any good coach, I want to do the same, to be kind of a voice that helps um, that helps you separate signal from noise, and tell you that we need your passion in the space. There is we need your talent. We need your devotion to human-centered approaches and good experiences. If you're passionate about this, keep at it. Don't give up, and keep searching for your place in this industry. Conversational AI will be better for your involvement and passion.